Hi, everyone. Just going to get started right now. Thank you for joining us today in Vegas and not being at the bar. Okay, so first I'm just going to introduce our panelists here. Myself, I am Nadia. I'm an online community manager at Microsoft, and I also do affiliate marketing on the side. Beside me, I have Mike Whitmore, who is from Fresh Consulting in Bellevue, Washington. And he's actually... What was your company doing again?
Mainly business strategy, but with a focus in social media as well. Okay,
excellent. And actually, he got into social media through personal experience not only a couple years ago, was it?
Yep, exactly.
And so I just love his story. If you want to ask him about it later, that it's a really interesting story. Next to Michael, we have Marcus Nelson, and he is online community manager for Salesforce. And beside him, we have Kris Krug, who is a teacher of social media at Emily Carr in Vancouver, British Columbia. And he has done also a lot of social media projects along with VANOC and the Olympics in 2010.
Ask who's Trisha Lynn?
Who's Trisha Lynn? Is Trisha around? She's not here.
She tweeted.
She tweeted.
Everything. We just want to say hi back. That's
yeah. So yeah, well, guys, we're not shy people. If you have any questions, we have a microphone just right there, and if you can come up and ask, or we can do the Twitter thing. You know, we're a social media group right up here. I don't know if you know that. But anyways, kind of get started again. Ask us questions. We're here to help and here to talk about stuff. So. Actually, let's just get started and kind of learn a little bit more about you guys. How long have you been in social media? And let's start with that. Michael?
Yeah, so I started with Fresh in January of 2009. I've been blogging before, and I heard of Twitter and Facebook, and I thought that stuff's ridiculous. Who needs that kind of stuff in their life? And I was a traditional sales guy, sold software, hardware services, and heard of these guys, Fresh, and they talked about not only Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, but all the social tools that are going on. A website that I'll give you is called Web2, the number 2, and then the word review. So web2review.com. It's a free site that we do. It's a great place to go research and look at different tools. We have a community there called Cloud Surfers, and we categorize over 3,200 web tools that can be used for your company. So check it out. It's a great resource, free. And when I heard these guys talk about it, they mentioned blogging. And as you said, I had that personal experience. I knew the power of blogging. I thought, these guys are onto something. And that's when I started talking with them and thought, okay, can I actually make this into a business model we can take out to the marketplace? And it's been fantastic. We do work today in 3 countries and 5 states with clients in every vertical. So it's a lot of fun. That's how kind of I got started.
Okay, thank you.
I got started a similar way, just longer ago. 2002, I started blogging, and that evolved into wanting to customize my blog, and I taught myself HTML and started doing web design, which evolved into actually doing consulting and doing web for other people. And then a friend of mine who was a SEO person was saying, hey, how come you're not on XYZ site or whatever? He said it'll help your SEO value and yada, yada, yada. So I just started signing up for everything and trying everything out. And as you've probably discovered, you start meeting people and having conversations, and you find about new things. And it's kind of like crack, and I just couldn't stop. So, yeah.
Well, my story is a little different, I guess. I started an online magazine in 1998. It was called Spark, and it grew fast and large. In fact, we only ended up stopping it because it kind of got crushed under the weight of its own success. So we weren't using a CMS to publish it. We didn't really have great community tools, but we were trying to publish, what were blog posts and get community to respond in the form of comments and stuff. And so after running that for 3 years and with about 250,000 subscribers, we shut it down, and I took a little hiatus. And this is the time that, Manila blogging tools started being developed, and kind of CMSs started becoming more commonplace. So really, I've been doing community right since the beginning, I guess, right through, blogging into the web 2 years, and now, the term social media. Yep. And yeah, most of my work has been around, I've done a lot of work with the Vancouver 2010 Olympics. I ran social media monitoring and metrics for those guys. So building intelligent listening dashboards, media monitoring tools, kind kind of homegrown sentiment analysis stuff using Yahoo Pipes and RSS. And yeah, just kind of living and breathing it for a decade or more.
Okay, very cool. Marcus, this next question's for you. So you work with Salesforce. I'm wondering, at what point did they decide that they wanted to implement social media? And how did they kind of go about that? And then how did they start and execute that?
It started pretty early on, actually. I think in, don't quote me exactly, I've only been with the company for about 2 years, so this actually started happening before I got there. So I think in 2007 or 2006 is when they started their communities to support independent consultants and developers for the Force.com platform. And that turned into, they created a Salesforce Ideas, which was their ideation product. And eventually that turned into Salesforce Answers and a slew of other products. And because of that, the community just started growing and exploding, actually. And with the advent of Twitter, I guess the heyday of Twitter's growth was about 1.5 years ago. Suddenly they realized, we need to be able to take care of these people as well, and so they formalized a social media engagement strategy, and that I was lucky enough to be there at the right time. So that's how we got into it.
And so what are what channels do you guys focus on?
We have two separate efforts going on. In digital media, we have a group of people, a senior director of social media. His name is, actually just got promoted, VP. Jamie Grenny heads up our YouTube and LinkedIn, as well as our internal, or what we call on-premise communities. These are your forums, that kind of thing. And then I take care of all of our external. I work in corporate communications, so I take care of Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, cool. Mike, so coming down from what Marcus just said, when you're pitching companies on social strategies and stuff like that, how do you determine the channels that they're going to use and how they're going to start and how they're going to grow their community?
Great question. So one of the things that I needed to learn being new to social media was how to make this a practice that we could actually deliver services around. And one of the books I read is The Groundswell. How many of you have read The Groundswell in the audience, just out of curiosity? Pivotal. If you have not read that book, I really recommend it. The authors have now left Forrester and they've gone to another company, but there's a methodology in there called POST, P-O-S-T. It's people, objective, strategy, and tactics. And so when we take a look at a company and when we decide what kind of social media channels to be on, the first thing we'll look at is the people. Who are they trying to communicate with and why? What are the audiences and what do they want those audiences to do? And then we'll look at objectives, strategy, and tactics, and or technology, particularly, to deliver whatever strategy we might recommend. So, for example, when we were dealing with a private school in Redmond, we found that the biggest supporters of this private school, one student to go there for 1 year is $18,000. So you can imagine the parents have to be big supporters of the school. We found the moms were the most vocal audience. And so we really wanted to engage the moms around anything that we did. So our social strategy, we found 16 audience types, different kinds, and we had different objectives and strategy and technologies that we recommended for each one of them. But the moms were our main focus for the people at that school. So that's how we decide kind of just a quick blush by what kind of approach we'll use depending on what the company's trying to do.
Okay, very interesting. Kris, I'd like your opinion on how because you kind of do more ad hoc, kind of guerrilla kind of stuff. What are your tips on you've built your Twitter, you have your Facebook. How on earth are you going to grow those, and what are your strategies? What tactics do you use?
Sure. I consider myself an artist. I'm a photographer. I publish a lot of content on Flickr and on YouTube, video blogs and stuff. And I really think that content's at the core of it for me. So, what I advise businesses to do is, to document everything. If you don't stick it on the internet, it didn't happen. So in so much as this talk is valuable here in this room, it's more valuable if we can document it, share it with the world via our blog and YouTube and the rest. So once you've, done the land grab, gone out there and registered and own your names in all the different places and have started to create those profiles and connect it up to your network and your people, then you got to start putting out awesome content as consistently as possible. And, the easiest things to do there are photos, videos, blog posts, slide shares, all that kind of stuff. And I think that that's where the real organic growth comes from, is having a voice and a perspective and putting out interesting stuff of value. You do that and you'll succeed.
Okay, so talking about voice. Now, either of you can take this one, but how do you determine your company's voice? I was sitting down with Edelman last week, and they were talking about how Gap decided to change kind of their voice and messaging on Twitter for a week, and they had absolutely horrible feedback about it. It was more snarky. It was more the community had a backlash, and I was just kind of wanting to know your thoughts about how do you determine this is going to be Salesforce's voice? This is what Waldorf is going to say, and this is how we're going to say it, and we're not going to do XOXO, we're not going to do smiley faces. How do you think people should go about that and kind of determine that? And
it's a great question, and I think that the closer that you can stay to an authentic self, where you're not really asking, like there's a certain disingenuousness to testing a change of your voice for a week on a channel or something, right? That's a very top-down kind of corporate thing to do. It's like first we have this voice, and now we're going to beta test this other voice, right? And so I default to a more organic approach. I guess I keep using that word, but I mean almost like an iterative approach. Like you can try some stuff and see what works, and then you can reevaluate. But I guess the piece of advice I'd give you is that I start every social media campaign with listening. Like when I put people on I put people on the program, right? Like we get you started on social media, and so the program consists of, for the first week, finding people who are saying things that you're interested in and listening along to that, and not really maybe interacting too much, but really just trying to figure out the lay of the land. Who's the important people? What's the nature of the conversation? What's the information flow like in this ecosystem? And from there, maybe in the second week, you can start replying back to people. This is like maybe in the case of blog posts, like you start commenting on other people's blogs that you've been following, or start adding something to the conversation. And maybe in the third week, you should start blogging, or start, talking more and stuff, where you really, you know who's who, a little bit of the historical temperature of the conversation taking place, and then you really have something to start to contribute to it or whatever. So, I'd start with, maybe Gap. I'm sure they have done lots of research, but maybe through a little bit more listening, a little less top-down marketing. Twitter and Facebook and this stuff, definitely not another advertising marketing channel, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It's a chance for your audience, whether they be fans of a band or customers of a brand, to interact with your personality, to get to know you. Really, it's just a chance to be in direct communication and relationship with people. So I think the closer you are to that, the more success you'll be met with. And the farther you deviate, the more it's, contrived, to use a lack of a better word, or the more of it's mandated or corporately approved or run through PR and legal, you lose something there, I believe, Like, I'll tell you one story, it's hilarious. It's actually definitely a case study for don'ts. I did, like I told you guys, I did social media monitoring analytics for the Vancouver 2010 Olympics. And this is a very unique organization. It's very broadcast rights intensive. They make $3 billion a year on Olympics from broadcast rights on television. And they have almost no monetization strategy for the online world. So they're averse to spending much time or money in places where they're not seeing revenue. Canada's a unique country. We're bilingual. We got English and French. So these guys decided that their strategy for using Twitters and Facebooks and the internets was they were going to have one Twitter channel that they were going to put out both the French and the English on, and that it had to be run through legal and PR. So the workflow process was, guy would write page of dozen tweets, they would get translated into French, the now translated tweets would get run through legal, run through PR, and of the 15 he wrote, 6 would come back as approved and translated 48 hours later. How do you intend to run a Olympic grade social engagement thing when you're putting out to a consumer of content, someone who doesn't read French, it's going to look like spam in their feed. Even that second of trying to figure out what is this saying as it comes across in French, or if you're French, and you don't speak English, you might resent a little bit the English coming through. So I thought it was a mistake, right? And it's definitely falls on the contrived, corporate controlled and translated, legally approved, run through the Department of Canadian Heritage, to make sure that everyone was included and stuff. So anyway, that would be on my don't list. Mm.
It's kind of like being a DJ. I used to be a DJ at college, and it'd be funny. We would get requests to do a 50s dance, and we start playing the music, and people get sick of the 50s music after a while, and they want to do the Macarena or something else. So you kind of have to see how the crowd reacts to what you post and what your content is, and then play the music accordingly. I'm a musician. I'm a drummer, actually. So I've worked at both in live venues and in the pre-recorded music, and it's amazing. And the same thing applies to social. See how the crowd reacts, and play more of that.
Okay, so I'm actually now really interested in how Salesforce uses online listening, so tools such as Radiant 6, and then how someone with who can't afford those kind of licenses, how would they go about online listening and finding conversations? And you know, share of voice, for instance, is something that I focus on Radiant 6 a lot. Volume of conversation. So, you know, how do you guys go about that? I know that you, Marcus, use Radiant 6, but you know, what are some other solutions out there for people that don't have $25,000?
Yeah, Radiant 6 is not cheap. This is not a paid endorsement. It's just the tool that we chose. There are a lot of other tools out there.
A couple hundred.
A couple hundred, exactly. And you can go to web2review.com where you can review these tools.
Thank you.
You like that? Yeah. Yeah, that was not an endorsement either. Not paid anyway. You know, Radiant 6 is great. It is a little clunky. It's all Flash driven. So the UI does take some getting used to. And you do kind of have to have somebody who knows something about analytics to actually kind of understand how to set it up and get it going. It's not really straightforward, like a, you know, type in Boolean search here. But once you do get it up and going, it can be amazing. And we get a lot of good stuff out of it. But
What's your favorite stat to look at in there?
Yeah.
my favorite stat are the...
Like, what's the good, the honey right in the middle?
Can I be honest?
Yes.
Anybody want to be honest here?
Please be honest.
The stuff that's really interesting to me when I'm using, because most of the time I know what's going on because I'm there in front of the dashboard. We use CoTweet for our engagement. So I don't use the engagement part of Radiant 6. We still use CoTweet only because we had that earlier on and it works with our workflow. But the one thing about press releases, and this is a shift that we're seeing at our company where we're kind of moving away from press releases and moving more into kind of a social release. We'll hope to be redoing our blog soon and getting a little bit more savvy. Last year was a year of YouTube for us, where we really pumped up the volume on our YouTube engagement. But the stats, to answer the question, are really our press bumps. We want to know where our content's showing up that isn't in the normal channels. Yeah, Wall Street Journal, yeah, Forbes, yeah, Barron's or whatever. Those are normal. I like it when it shows up in this weird forum I've never heard of with a bunch of people who are having some really intellectual conversation about, you know, something we never thought of.
How it should work.
Yeah, you know, what was great was when we acquired Heroku just recently. That was amazing because suddenly our brand started showing up in all these conversations where our brand's never been talked to before, and we don't know who the influencers are. And it's this moment of discovery, and that's the part that I really love about using something like Radiant 6. Question?
Would you repeat her question for the three?
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, she's asking how I feel about offering the ability for people to sign up for the newsletter when they're at their blog. WordPress is great for this, right? You go on there and you sign up. FeedBurner allows it too, where you can sign up with your email address so that instead of having to go to the blog, it actually comes to you as an email. Is that correct? Yes. And your thought was, but what was the question part of it? Right.
As far as the automated service that would pull all the content directly from the blog and send it out in a newsletter for you. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this really kind of goes to Salesforce's sweet spot right now. Mark Benioff wrote an article. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to do it, called The Facebook Imperative. He wrote in a post on TechCrunch last spring, I believe. And what he talked about, and what I think is what you're talking about, is the movement of where we're not calling it Web 3.0. We don't know what to call it. But what it is that the information comes to us. It's mobile, social, real time, and this is where Twitter and Facebook are excelling, where they're bringing data to you. I can turn on Facebook and there it is. I can turn on Twitter, there it is. And what you're saying, I open up my email, boom, there it is. I think what you're going to see is that tools are going to be much more automated like that, bringing the information to you. We do live in a society where the microwave mentality has really kind of taken over, and we all want everything right now, and we don't want to have to go get it. And so I think what you're seeing is that way of bringing information to you is only going to be accelerated.
Hey, someone sent a question up there I thought I might take a stab at, and then Nods, I'll talk to you about the roll your own monitoring.
Yeah.
Says, Kris, what social channel do you recommend starting with? It seems it's really easy to spread yourself too thin. So my take on this one is, when it comes to all the social networks, you got to put everything in the place where it goes, and like everything in its home. And what I mean is, like, in my case, photos go on Flickr, videos go on YouTube, slides go on SlideShare, and then all that shit gets aggregated back into my blog and then sent out via Twitter and Facebook. So you take all the constituent parts, put them in their like first order home. Like, for instance, I don't put my photos on Facebook because Facebook has bad image compression, no searchability, lots of different things. I put them on Flickr where they can live in their high-res format, tag titled, index, et cetera, et cetera. Same with videos, right? I would never stick my videos directly to Facebook first. I might suck them back into Facebook via an automated process, or suck them back in photos or videos from Flickr or YouTube into Facebook, but I would never stick them there because it's not where they go. So my strategy is land grab my name across all the networks, focus my content on deep silos of like content, so 45,000 images on Flickr, 350 video blogs on YouTube, and then bring that back into the place that I own, which is kriskrug.com, staticphotography.com, or your clients.com website. Aggregate it back in, and you're creating internal linking amongst yourself by doing this, right? You pretty much just create like a 4-level structure. Like, you stick your photos on your Flickr, you pull them back in via slideshow into your blog, you Twitter the blog out, and your Twitter updates your Facebook, right? So you got this quick 4-pronged approach where each piece is a little bit unique, right? Like, each piece, there's value, incremental value as it goes along the kind of info supply chain there. And when it comes to not spreading yourself too thin, it's all about having intelligent robots out there doing your bidding, like Marcus was talking earlier about declaring Twitter bankruptcy and stuff. And so, like, I'm in a constant process of refinement of my tools such that I can cut through all the noise and just get delivered the yummiest, most information-rich stuff in the middle there. And then as that leads into your question, Naz, from my monitoring and analysis, I've come up with a little framework that I use this free tool called NetVibes, which is just a free dashboarding tool. It just allows you to stick feeds and widgets into kind of a dashboard and create a whole bunch of tabs. So what I do is I go out there and I use a combination of techniques. Like, I'll take, during the Olympics, I was like working on the Cultural Olympiad. So I would go into Google Alerts and other blog search tools, and I would look for Cultural Olympiad references, but then I'd put all those into Yahoo Pipes, point them all into one place, and I would run a deduplication on it and throw it all away. And I would also run a translation. You can use these little widgets to do translations, deduplications. It's a visual programming website, Yahoo Pipes. So you can essentially program by dragging boxes around and stuff. So I put all the feeds that are on Cultural Olympiad into one place. I throw away the duplicates. I translate everything into English, and then I run it through PostRank, which tells me relative importance of the people having that level of conversation. So essentially what I get delivered back is like here's the English language mentions of the particular thing that you're interested in, reverse order of the influence of the person who's saying it or something like that. So at a glance, you can take a look at, who said Cultural Olympiad, are they important, and should I respond to them? My goal was to deliver my VPs, essentially like, if you're gonna take half an hour today and engage with the internet, here's the place you should do it. Like, this is just the okay, I just want half an hour of your attention, and here's where we're gonna get the most bang for our buck. Talk to these guys, something like that. So, and then I also suck in, like tag searches on, on hashtags, Google Alerts, Flickr tagged photos, YouTube tagged photos, and I pull them all into my NetVibes dashboard, broken up by topic. So I got a Olympics dashboard and a Waldorf Hotel dashboard and all these things. And so this is where I make my decisions. This is how I know where to go and what to do. And so those are all free tools. And unfortunately, the part that some people don't like to hear is that they take manual labor, elbow grease to keep them running efficiently. They get clogged up, or you start returning less quality results, and you got to tweak and tune and refine it. And so it does take time, and it can be manually intensive. However, I think that it's the most effective way to be that powerful, let's say, or to have that much, to cast that wide of a net. If you're going to cast that wide of the net, it's the most efficient way to do it. But it does take ongoing time and maintenance and love. And
that's when you hire Kris to come in and do this for you, because you're like, after step number 3, you're like, okay, I'm too thin already.
Just glazed over.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
That is. But what Kris just said is very, very true. If you bring what he said and you have your hub, your blog, or your main focus point, your main real estate online, and have all those other feeds point to it, that's the same thing we recommend at Fresh. And Kris, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you mind if I kind of go a different way? You've mentioned organic a couple of times, even before we were talking in this session. Yep. And we're big fans of that too. Matter of fact, we're not SEO experts. We don't do paid search. We don't really recommend it for a lot of our clients unless they really want to spend that money. What's your opinion on paid search? Because once you've got all this other content kind of driving traffic to you, we've found that a lot of our clients don't need to do the paid search to rise up to the top of those search results.
I like to cover all.
Transition to SEO, by the way.
I like to.
Sorry.
I mean, my approach is to cover all my bases, right?
Okay.
And so if you're giving me a budget, I'm probably going to take a part of it and do that as well.
Sure.
Because it's just another tool in your arsenal or feather in your cap, just another channel for bringing more stuff in. Sure. So there's a lot that I can do without spending that money. But if you got a budget and you want to, if we're focusing on a lot of different areas, it would definitely be a tool in my tool belt.
Another one to add.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, great.
Okay, guys, so we're always focusing on what to do, how to do it. I want you to tell us what things don't work and what we shouldn't do.
Well, there's 2 questions up there, actually.
Okay, let's do that first then. So Marcus, can you read that one? Because I have very bad eyes.
Well, one is to me. You said the split. This is a really simple one. You said you split social to internal and external, but YouTube and LinkedIn are external. So why are they held under the internal person's group? It's pretty simple. I'm one person, and the other group has several. So that was just a personnel decision. But the other thing too that I would add to that is that one of our social media strategies coming up this year, and we consulted with Altimeter Group. If you don't know Jeremiah Elwang or read his blog, you need to. It's web-strategist.com. web-strategist.com. And he offers a lot of tools. There's some slides that he has that he gives away that you can get information on how to set up social media strategy for your team, for your company. And what we are working toward is what we call a hub and spoke model, where I and one other guy will own kind of the strategy of Salesforce.com's social media strategy. But that was redundant, wasn't it? We'll own kind of the vision of it and the voice and whatnot. But what we will be doing is we'll gradually be empowering different groups to own their component of social media. So developers will have their own channels. Documentation will have their own channels. Product people have their own channels. So it's really empowering the company because trying to create a model where you just have a division that just does social media is really hard to scale.
It's fundamentally flawed.
Yes,
it's not just hard to scale. It's not the right way to do it. Really, just take the Zappos example or something, or if I'm building a company, I want everyone to feel empowered to be able to use these tools, and I want them to not just feel empowered, but actually to have the channels. I want those things to be in place, right? I think it really should. I don't believe in the ghost blogging CEO. Mm-hmm. I think that's not a good thing. Right. I think it should touch every customer service, support, sales, marketing, Agreed. PR.
And I totally agree with what he's saying. From a corporate standpoint, you want to have some sort of social media policy. You want to make sure that anybody who is representing the company conforms to whether it's the voice or whether it's how we're going to structure links or how, what are things we're going to engage with, what are we not going to engage with. So and those things don't have to be real heavy. In fact, I would encourage you, if you're going to write a social media policy, focus on telling people what to do and focus less on telling people what not to do.
I also think one of the don'ts is
it's a great suggestion.
Don't show up and be in social media and have a presence there and then disappear from it.
Yeah.
My wife used to work with Jamba Juice, and one of the things that they said if they ever had to leave a location, They immediately wanted all the signage and everything taken down, and so the building never looked like it was a vacant Jamba Juice. You don't want it to look like empty real estate because it's bad for your brand. Same thing here. If you're going to show up, be prepared to stay there and be present and add content to it and show that the freshness, there you go, of the brand and your identity there online.
We got 2 questions that just came in, and they're kind of similar. The first one is, so for business, are you better off using LinkedIn or Twitter? Does it really matter? And the second one is, you said find the people and listen to them, but how do you prioritize which sites? So those are kind of similar questions. In many cases, you may have more people already naturally engaging in one place or the other, and that would be a place to start. To the point of the first question, like LinkedIn or Twitter, I actually don't see them as that comparable, and so I would be using both. You know, as a person, I use LinkedIn only to manage my recommendations. So I just use it as essentially like a library of recommendations throughout my career. So I've curated like 200 referrals or whatever, right?
Can I also offer a suggestion on LinkedIn? We've actually, our 3rd largest client actually came through responding to a question on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn groups. So I have found a way to sell what we do by looking at those groups and responding to questions and engaging there as well. So if you haven't used LinkedIn groups, you're not utilizing all the strength of LinkedIn. It's a very powerful tool, even just the free version of it. So I would encourage you to do that if you haven't tried that yet.
And if I could throw out a little like word picture for you, think of, is anybody here like gardening or have gardened? Maybe you're not good. Maybe you've got a brown thumb, but yes, no, maybe so. Okay, there's one guy in the back. Well, I'm talking to you. Think of it as a garden. If you see things growing in a certain area, and you know, maybe you didn't do something intentionally, try and analyze why that's working. Maybe your tomatoes are growing, but your lettuce is not. Maybe there's bugs. Maybe there's the soil's not nutrient rich. And if you think about that in a community sense, find out why that's working. What is it about that space that's working? Is it because the influential people who are concerned with your brand are there, and what are they saying? And then if it is, can you contact those people and find out what, you know, if you can be involved, if you can add value to the conversation, instead of just jumping in and like trying to own the conversation. That's the last thing you want to do, is try to empower the people that are already there so that they can do it even better.
Oh yeah, that's number 3 on my list of do's. Is it's really all about, I think, leveraging highly interested, you know, brand ambassadors, fans, loyal customers. I mean, really, like, I'm much more interested in the things that people say about Nadia than I am about the things that Nadia says about herself. You know, like that. There's a lot more credibility in what you guys say about her probably than what you say about yourself. So I'm always trying to get our fans, customers, and people that interact with us, I'm trying to give them tools like logos, screenshots, clips, videos, digital assets. I'm trying to create parties, programs, giveaways that encourage people to respond and then share the response. And really just, you know, just trying to keep pushing the power out to the people and let them tell the story, really. And that becomes the story, too. You know, you end up endearing people to your brand by letting that level of interaction take place, I think.
I think that's really a good point, Kris. One of the things I wrote down here is to mention is prepare, when you do this, prepare to be surprised when you get into social media. Wikipedia, if you know what that is, put Microsoft and Carta out of business about a year or 2 ago. Right. And how much does Wikipedia pay its employees? Nothing, okay? So,
but they're like the most rabid guys on the internet, too. They're like paladins of information, you know, like out there fighting the good fight.
And they're getting credited with being a great source. Now, this is an interesting phenomenon because to be an active contributor on Wikipedia, you've had to have contributed in the last 30 days. Yeah. There's 160,000 of them in the last 30 days. Doing this for free. So there's this inherent desire to create, connect, participate in this new medium, and this is why it works. So prepare to be surprised.
Cool.
May I also add, on another note, prepare a disaster recovery plan. If you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to be surprised. And you're going to have negativity to respond to, or a troll that you might have to decide how you're going to respond. I think we could talk about that for a while, actually.
That was actually my next question. Is I want to know about the worst, the most negative experience that's happened to you online publicly, how you dealt with it, or I'm sure you have. I have. With Microsoft, you can imagine. So.
Man, I have to remind myself all the time to not feed the trolls. It is so tempting when that guy pops up his head and makes some smart-ass comment to respond.
Does everybody know what a troll is, by the way?
No.
Anyone not know what a troll is? Okay, let's define that real quick, Kris.
I would
They're usually green, 12 feet high. No.
In movies.
mean-spirited, argumentative folks that you know how they make that joke about like the internet where every conversation ends, every debate that takes place on the internet ends with one party calling the other party a Nazi or comparing them to Hitler. So that's like the idea of a troll, is that like no matter what, this conversation is degrade down into ad hominem attacks on people and stuff, and really the person won't be convinced anyway. Here, let me tell you an anecdote that will probably best summarize it for me as a photographer. I license all my photos under a Creative Commons license, which means you're allowed to use my photos without asking me for anything you want, as long as it's not commercial, as long as you link back to the original photo and credit me by my name. So as you can imagine, lots of people use my photos. I got 40,000 online. I got a decent eye and good equipment, so everyone's using my photos. Some people are using it in accordance with my Creative Commons license, and some people are violators. So I'm offered this choice now. It's like I got 24 hours of my day. Generally, I'm a positive person. Do I want to spend my time chasing down the guys who aren't using the stuff correctly and trying to get them to take it down or to pay me my licensing fee or something, to no avail, probably, because they'll just tell me to fuck off, and they'll probably steal more of my photos if I pay attention to them.
Or just take them all down.
Or do you spend your time positively reinforcing the community members who are using your stuff the right way? You only got a certain amount of keystrokes in your lifetime. Do you want to spend them chasing down the negative trolls and haters, or do you want to spend them positively giving love and calling example to, hey, Nadia, thanks for using my photo under Creative Commons license, looks awesome. Here, let me link to your content and push a little of my traffic your way. So that's my approach when it comes to like, how do you deal with bad situations on the internet? I put my attention to the people who are, where lessons can be learned and other people can follow their example, and I try to ignore everyone else. And
please be aware that some of these guys or people do this just for entertainment. They'll throw something out just to see if they can start a fire. Okay, like a scout throwing a spark into a gasoline tank. Yeah.
So are there any experiences, like a specific story that you guys might have?
So we're talking about two separate things here. One is the experience, and one, what do you do with trolls? Because I have one of each. So, well, I have several, but these are the two I'm going to tell you. So, oftentimes with Salesforce, we get people that are, bashing the product or a competitor or something like that. And the way I usually extinguish it is I always have this kind of, it's not a canned response. I mean, I write it fresh every time, but it's usually around the same spirit of, man, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'd love to be able to help you. Here's my email address. If you could just tell me what happened or why you think this, I'd be happy to help you. Or I'll pass it along to somebody else who has the power to do something. And usually that kind of extinguishes it right away. So that's just one tip. Always be helpful. Always extend a way to get you offline. Just remove them from the conversation. If anybody have kids, what's the best way to stop a fight? Remove the kid from the situation, right? Or if they're in the store and they throw a tantrum, remove them from the situation. So that's that tip. All right, so going back to negative experience, Salesforce has been very lucky. We haven't been in many snafus, and probably because our product isn't really, consumer-based and that type of thing. But the one thing that I had is I was still fresh to the company, and I was still in product marketing. I was not in PR, so I hadn't been inundated with what PR jail looks like. That's what we call it. It's like if you say the wrong thing, you go to PR jail. So I didn't know like what I should and shouldn't say, and so there was still this kind of apprehension to not say anything because you don't want to say the wrong thing. And that's why I said before, when you do your social media policy, encourage people what to say and don't tell them what not to say, because then they end up getting a mental block. They want to help, but they're afraid to help, so they do nothing. And that's the worst thing you can do. So that's what happened to me. And I was speaking at a conference in Austin, Texas, and while I was there was a service interruption. It's not an outage, it's an interruption, and because it does come back. The PR team, it was like, I don't know, 7:30 in the morning, so I'm just showing up to go to this conference, and everybody back home is still in bed or hasn't gotten to work or whatever, and I'm panicking. I mean, it just starts boom, 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 people who are having bad experiences. So I start writing emails to everybody and anybody and calling anybody that I can to try and get like a response. Do we have an official response here? And it took me about an hour and a half before I could get somebody to give me a response. By that time, there were 3 blog posts that were posted about how Salesforce was nowhere to be found on social media. And that wasn't true. I'm sitting there staring at it, but I'm not saying anything because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
And I think, did anybody see Saving Private Ryan? You know, that sequence where his buddies are upstairs in a knife fight, and he's got the ammunition, and he's supposed to bring the ammunition. He's halfway up the stairs, and he's right there, and he freaks out because he doesn't want to get killed. I mean, that's kind of how it is. So you don't set somebody up for that situation. Just think of Private Ryan. No, that's a horrible thought. Don't do that.
How about your experiences? You got a question back here?
Yeah, question. So you mentioned the trolls and the canned response once you identify a person like that. Right? On your own operated sites, your Facebook or your Twitter account, when someone like that does pop up and you've already responded to them, but they're just really outspoken, put it nicely, does it fall into the don't category if it's been resolved and it's something that's just an ugly blemish to want to pull it down off your Facebook page or your Twitter page? Should you not do that? Should you do that? I mean, how do you handle that post? It's already been resolved.
That's a great question, because we had a client like similar to this, and we recommended about a dozen different approaches that they could take. It was a financial services client, and I'll give you kind of what happened in short. So they wanted to get out on the review sites, and one of their salespeople made a call into an executive office. So they called from Seattle to New York, and they got this gentleman's admin, and the salesperson representing the company wanted to really talk to the executive, that's the customer, and the admin fielded his call and would not let him through, and he became insulting to that admin. And she was very offended by that, obviously. And she went out to every review site that they were on and said, I hate these guys, lowest rating, et cetera, et cetera. They called me up in a panic and said, Mike, what do? We've put ourselves out there. Can we delete those negative comments? Well, no, it doesn't work that way. You know, once you have those negative comments out there, they're there. So there's a number of ways we described that they could respond to this. And while we're on the phone, he said, hang on a second, I've got another call. It was that admin calling up and talking to our client. And it turns out that what they did is they took care of her, said, we're terribly sorry. We apologize for this. This was not how we want to represent our brand. And they made amends to this. And she went out after that and rated them all 5 stars, highest rating, said these guys know how to respond, take care of a problem situation. I recommend them. They know how to run their business. Now what's interesting is this review site allowed them to find a problem, frankly an employee, that was misrepresenting their brand in a way they didn't want to have represented in the marketplace. So being out there and being social is going to give you, again, being surprised, going to give you some feedback that you can actually act on and take action. And in this case, it resolved itself very, very well. Let me give you one other quick example. This is from Microsoft. A few months ago, Google came out and said, Microsoft's platform is not secure, so any Google employee coming in can either choose a Mac computer or a Linux-based machine, but they will not be allowed to use Windows. Well, I have a very good friend of mine, close friend of my family, who runs Windows PR for Microsoft. As you imagine, he can be very busy at times, particularly when things like this happen. So they were getting ready to do the canned Microsoft response, and it turns out that the community of developers came and responded on Microsoft's behalf. And the bloggers and the community said, you know what, Microsoft's platform is fantastic, it's rock solid, we love it, we support it. The PR department did nothing. They didn't have to. That is a classic case study of the blogging community and the user community coming together in a very powerful way, and Microsoft didn't have to touch it. Yeah.
But I think what you were asking is like if somebody posted on your Facebook or something that you had control, is that correct?
Correct. We actually, to your point, that was how we identified that there was an issue, and then took the appropriate steps to correct it, actually went above and beyond, but this person, the damage was done at that point.
Yeah.
So at that point, on our own operated Facebook page or Twitter page, whatever that may be, can we then go back because it's ridiculous? Is that no? You don't want to over there?
I honestly wouldn't recommend
No.
it.
It's a
I think
tough one.
It's a
Yeah,
tough
it's a tough
one because
question.
every situation's different. We've had cases where people have said things that are weird on Facebook, and I go back to that pat response where I say, hey, I'm sorry you feel this way. Feel free to reach out to me. And what happens is 9 times out of 10, that person there's no follow-up post, and I probably don't ever get an email from them. But at least somebody who's reading that sees that you took action, and hopefully it was quick. So if they took a look at the timestamp, that wasn't there for a week. Hopefully it was there for like 15 minutes and somebody responded, that's the best way to extinguish it, is just let them know, hey, we heard you. Here's an email address to take some more action on it, and that's the best you're going to be able to do.
Now, there's these review tools online like Yelp and others that will rate restaurants, for example, and you'll have numbers of stars. Do any of you only eat at 5-star restaurants? No, me neither. Isn't that funny? I'll go to one that's a 2.5-star rated by peers and stuff. Why? Well, I tend to believe the reviews that are more realistic than I do anything that's 5-star, 5-star, 5-star straight across the board.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and the review model is very powerful. Gartner did a study last July. 74% of consumers will check an online review before they'll buy anything. So those reviews are becoming important, but I also believe the reality is you're not always going to have 100% experience positive, and you'll still go. You'll still spend money there.
I'm going to make a quick, this is a conversation that Kris and I had earlier. I gave myself a Christmas gift of a new camera, and I bought this lens. And it was $99. That's good enough for me. But it had a good number of stars, and Kris was looking at it, and he said, oh, that's the best lens for you for the dollar. What did you call it?
Pound for pound, the best lens Canon makes.
Right.
Nice.
And I'm brand new. I've had this thing for 2 weeks. How am I supposed to know? But what I did was, to what Mike just said, is that I didn't just take the reviews. I went and I clicked on each guy that wrote a review to see if he had written about other Canon products or was he reviewing other products. I wanted to make sure that he wasn't like some guy that just worked for Canon and all he did was Canon reviews. Then I wouldn't have taken it as credible. I went and I saw that these guys were avid camera guys. So for me, that's, that was my research. I don't know if everybody does that, but I guess that kind of feeds to his point, is that, we don't always look for perfection. We just want things to be real. So to your point, I think a person who comes and stumbles across something, everybody's going to screw up. Nobody's perfect. And I think oftentimes that authenticity, and they just want to be validated. So if you validate their response with, reaching out and say, hey, this is our customer support line. I'd love to help you. Here's my personal email address, or whatever you have to do. Just extinguish it.
My line in the sand is illegal activity. So harassment, libel, child pornography, or hate speech, that kind of stuff. If it's any of that, it can come down. So if it falls into harassment, bring it down or something like that. But other than that, push your vision out to the medium term or the long term and realize that really it's all about being a responsive person that fixes situations. Like in blog posts, I'm a big fan of the updated bit at the bottom. You never really change. I don't think you should ever really change a blog post, revise it. I think you should put an
strike through it.
Or strike through it, yeah. Or put an updated at the bottom, just to let you know that we launched this, it failed, we updated, here's the other blog post or something like that.
Okay, guys, what if this guy was on Facebook? Say, we've done all this, and now there's this guy, and he is going on my Facebook fan page every day, and he is writing really negative comments every day. And
harassment.
He's not going to let go. Would you? No, you don't need to. Would you just say, I'm just going to block you? I'd write him. I'm going to, I'm sorry, but. Yeah. And then you'd block him from your page.
That crosses my line, which is illegal activity harassment.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Does that help better?
Did you do the right thing?
Yeah, we responded within a good period of time, but that person just did pretty much the example that she gave, went to 17 other Facebook posts that were on there and just hammered the hell out of us on each one. It was
Yeah.
Brutal.
And so you blocked him?
No, it was kind of, at this point, they're lingering on there. I'm just a little agitated to know really, should we or could we?
Yeah. We should take a look at it. Maybe if you want to grab us afterward, we can take a.
Yeah, I mean, you can block the person, and you can also report them to Facebook, and there's other steps you can do. But at the end of the day, you just got to do the best you can, right?
And I would approach this, by the way, this type of thinking for everyone here, not if it's going to happen. I would say when, and what's your action going to be when it does. Yeah. Just be ready. Yeah.
You got a question up front?
Not a question,
Nope.
I wanted to make a comment.
Sure, yeah.
The other thing is, what will happen too is people who do that.
Can you say that into the can you say that into the microphone just to make sure that it gets
Right there.
recorded? Thanks.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
There's a power switch on the bottom of it. There you go.
It's not on. I hit the on.
Good.
There you go.
People who usually do that, they do that on a regular basis. They have a reputation for being an asshole. So guess what? People will ignore them.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that people, a lot of times they don't think about. They start getting that reputation, so They lose their social currency and people don't listen to them anymore. It takes the edge off.
Yeah, Kris actually made a really good point, again, before we came to this. Kris, can you reiterate that?
Well, again, I'm an optimist, and I believe in like the self-healing power of the organism, the network, the internet, right? I mean, it was built as a military project to withstand nuclear destruction, you know, and that if there's a problem, if there's congestion or outage or whatever, the internet reroutes itself around these problems. And, you know, you bring up a great point with his social capital and woofy and reputation, you know, like my bio tagline is always, you know, I am whatever you say I am. And I think that that's really kind of like what the internet's all about. And so if you're going to be an asshole for a long time, you will lose your voice and your credibility, and other people can see it. And yeah, I think the internet routes around failure, and in this case, that guy's a failure.
And I approached this method for being social. One of the things I thought when I first got involved a couple years ago was I wanted to be three things: genuine, accurate, and positive. And I actually tweeted it last night as part of this. I'm Mike Whitmore on Twitter, by the way. I love to get followers. Anyway, and, so it's not a pitch. But this genuine, accurate, positive has served me very, very well as I've done that. And my personal story is a really tough one, actually. But I've tried to, hey, the world's got enough negativity in it. I'm going to try and be genuine, accurate, positive, not too sarcastic, not cut anybody down in humor. And that has served me very, very well, both as a professional and in my personal social life.
There's a question there asking Kris what he would recommend as his the number one recommend. I should just read the frickin' question.
Where to start?
Yeah, where to start? What would you say to that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, like I think I answered that question. I think you got to put everything in its home and then aggregate it back to a central place.
But they're asking like, what's the one place where they should start?
I can't Google.
I was just going to say that.
Google.
Myself I was going to say Google too.
Yeah, I mean, that's all roads lead to Rome, really, and that's what it's about. It really is. You know, for everyone who can't look you in the eyes and meet you face to face, you're just those top 10 Google results to them. You know, you're just whatever Google returns. So yeah. I think you need to be in all the places that is indexed by Google.
May I also suggest a couple other really good sites you should check out as you get acquainted with being a great blogger. Alltop.com is a great resource for you. It's like the encyclopedia of the best bloggers. Go to alltop.com, look at topics you're interested in, see what other people are writing, and they are fantastic and great models to follow. Check yourself out on Spokeo.com. What is Spokeo? It's Spokeo.com. What does it say about you? Because you would be surprised at the information that's available about you, and you can opt out of that or influence that. Another one, if you're looking to go into a company, another tool that I'd recommend, it's free, is called Glassdoor.com. If you're interviewing somewhere, you want to know what they're paying that particular type of position for that level of experience, usually you can find exactly what you're looking for at Glassdoor.com.
Okay, thanks guys. So yeah, I've got a question.
No, sorry, that was my question.
Yep.
The only reason I asked it because I'm reading on marketing right now, and he says start with one place. Start with Twitter. Do Twitter. Make sure you have a loyal following that you talk to and listen to, and then move them into another place, and then move into another place.
Sure, I understand where you're coming from. I guess in that framing, my place would be blog.
And I would agree with that completely.
So because it's deeper, it's more rich in different ways, and then start your blog and then start tweeting your blog posts or something like that, and from there engage deeper on Twitter, respond to the people who comment on you or something. But I would want to like at the end of the day, you gotta invest your time in a place that you own the thing, right? Like. Yep. At the end of the day, Twitter's probably not going to just go away, but it could. Like it could, or you could get shut down because of terms of service violation, or you could get hacked or something, right? So you gotta invest your time and strategic resources in the place that you control and own. So I'd make it your .com on your blog, on your server that you host, and then start to branch out and form an empire from there or something.
Kris is right on the point here. And by the way, one of the things that we bump into is people are always saying, well, what's the call to action? I'm going to do all this social stuff. What am I asking people to do? Buy something? I'm not selling hardware. I'm selling ideas. Here's the call to action has changed. What the call to action is now goes right back to Kris's point too, and that is you share or you create content that is shareable. And that may be, the share button on a website is served up 30 billion times a month. So we're in a very much of a sharing mode.
Yeah, so and if you don't create anything, you're just a part of the mob. Right? You're just a part of the rest of the chain of consumption or something like that, which is fine. There's value in that, but you got to be a producer. You got to add something and bring something to the table. If you want respect, credibility, and like viral following, if you want to grow fast and sit on, if you want to be speaking at things and writing books and doing stuff, you gotta contribute that first order content, which is either photos, videos, slide decks, infographics, blog posts, case studies, something like that.
And one thing about the blog is never feel like you have to write a novel. In fact, statistically, they say less than 500 words is perfect because people just want a snackable piece of content that they're going to read quickly, and if they're impressed, they'll forward it on.
Yeah, SEO would say that you would actually break every good point of a argument into a separate blog post that you link to the other blog post and end up building a little like mesh network of your main points or something.
Yeah.
There was another question?
So in addition to delivering content, what are your thoughts on growing the Facebook and Twitter through giveaways?
Here's the thing. It's like there's a problem when you incentivize because people tend to, sometimes you get the wrong crowd.
They'll game the system.
They'll game the system. So, a great, for instance, would be like, I'm trying to think. This is going to be horrible.
I love giveaways. I love giveaways.
No, I love giveaways. She loves giveaways, but it's got to be the right kind of giveaway.
Yeah, it does.
Don't give away free tickets to Justin Bieber, right? Because what you're going to end up with is 20,000 18-year-old girls who don't give a rat's about your product. Maybe you got a bunch of likes and your manager thinks that's awesome, but you know what? At the end of the day, they're just noisemakers. So, and it's nothing against girls. I'm just saying it's not the right people.
I work for a site that sells specified overstock inventory. So we give away relevant products from our site. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Well, you should absolutely whore that out. I mean, seriously.
Well,
because it's your audience.
Let's talk afterward, please.
Yes, and I'll hook me up with, But now, my point is that you want relevant engagement. And when you're selling a product, and especially if it's kind of a broad market like that, like Best Buy oversold or whatever. Overstock, thank you. That's the people that will return, and that's actually better, right? Because you want those people, those returning people. Like with one of the struggles we have at Salesforce is that it's CRM. At the end of the day, and then what, right? So, and now our product's diversifying. We're doing all these other cool things, but for a long time, our Facebook just stalled. Because there's only so many people that are really interested in that topic. Where you have an opportunity, like I can't give away CRM. All the people that are coming to Facebook to begin with are usually customers to begin with, right? So that's not a good incentive for something that we do, but for something like you do, rock it.
My advice, just one quick one. My advice would be to give your thing a creative hook that allows the promotion to have value beyond the actual giving away of the product. So it could be take a photograph and upload to Flickr of you and your crappy cell phone, and the best crappy cell phone wins a new cell phone. Because you can collect all those photos into a gallery and publish that as blog post content, or string them together in a YouTube video of a montage, some sort of thing where it's
or grab a domain, it's mycrappycellphone.com, and you push those photos out there, and now you're creating more content, SEO, humor, and now you've got a photo a day or something. Hey, here's Jamie in Lafayette, whatever, who is.
I think the worst way. I think the worst way to do it, or what I would consider the opposite end of the spectrum, is the retweet this exact phrase with the hashtag to win or something. Like I don't think that gives your brand anything other than the shortest term value, right? So push it out to create fun archives of things that you can have value other than just the promote. Let it not serve itself, serve a wider.
I would love to talk to you about contests, but I can't right now because our time's up.
Can I make one more
You
don't?
can,
This is the last
not.
don't, it's short. Love me? Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I love bacon. It's not just a confession. It's true. And I tweeted out that I was making bacon. If you follow me, you'll see I have a bacon theme in my social media. And out of nowhere, I got like 3 or 4 tweets back where people had set up or spam bots, I guess. I call them, what did I call it before?
Hambot or something?
Hambot. Where you get the spam, these tweets that say, hey, I noticed you like bacon. And it's like an affiliate link, right? And you click on that, somebody gets a bonus because you bought, maple ham from Newtskis in central Wisconsin. So, and that's great. I understand it. But, the same thing. I used to be a commercial bulk emailer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all of you. But you know what? You did what you had to do it. I was CAN spam compliant, I swear.
We all
but
are.
we all were. But the point is, you know, there are good ways to make money, and then there's shady ways of making money. And my plea to you is, don't use Twitter as a way to kind of use affiliate links. That's just one ask.
And we'll end it with that. Guys, if you want to speak to us, we'll be here for a few minutes after this. We have @KK on Twitter, @Marcus Nelson, @Mike Whitmore, and I'm @Digi Talk Fan. That's how I usually explain it because it's confusing. Anyway, thank you guys for attending, and have a great affiliate summit. We'll see you in New York.
I wasn't really.